Well, do you remember the good old days when you could get a mortgage with no money down? Well, they're here again in one Florida county. Our sister news organization, The Daily, out with an exclusive story on how federal and county loans are being offered to buyers to buy new $150,000 houses in Florida that put much of the risk right back on you, the taxpayer. Here now with more, Sarah Ryley, the author of the story and also a producer for The Daily. Sarah, I read the story, excellent story. I read it over the weekend and I thought, is there something wrong with the date on this? Because it must be from 4 years ago. How is this happening today? Tell us how this program is working.
Well, as you know, since the housing crash, the FHA did ramp up their own insuring of mortgages, where they'll insure a mortgage for up to 96.5% of the purchase price. Now I've been finding that local and state government housing finance authorities and across the country have started to also increase their second mortgage lending program as well, where you get a second mortgage for, say, 3 to 5% of the loan value. It brings you up to maybe 101% of the cost of the house, and because of that, you're in some cases you even get a little extra money to go towards closing costs.
So I was wrong in my intro. I mean, and you highlighted one housing development in Florida.
Correct.
So it's not that you can get a mortgage for $1 down. In some cases, you might be able to get a home with nothing down and even have some extra money in your pocket.
Right. Well, the $1 down program is just that you give the builder, in this case, Adams Homes in Cape Coral, Florida, a $1,000 deposit, and then they give you $999 back once the deal closes. And then they cover any additional closing costs and any additional costs that you have. So you're really only paying $1 to move into that home. And the dollar is just sort of a gimmick in a sense. It's, symbolic, like you have, something down, but it's only $1, right?
Yeah, and that's from the home builder itself, but most of the money coming from the FHA or these local programs. And we're not trying to pick on Florida because you also reported that the percentage of homes that are being purchased with these sort of FHA plus a state or county guaranteed second loan, they're increasing in Texas and other states too.
Right, and in those states like Texas, Indiana, and Florida, they also do provide first mortgages as well, similar to the FHA. So they'll provide a first and a second mortgage. So you have the FHA insuring mortgages, but then you also have some state housing finance authorities providing first and second mortgages as well.
And not only is your story incredible enough, but you also talked about how in this neighborhood, some of the homes have already fallen into foreclosure. And they're trading at, say, $75,000, right? So let's say a cash buyer, right? So people are taking out loans at 100% loan to value for $150,000 when the house next to them has just sold for $75,000. So in other words, they're borrowing taxpayer money and they're already immediately underwater by 50% on the mortgage.
Well, right.
Essentially.
Right. I mean, their defense is that you can't build a new house for as much as these old houses are selling for, even though these old houses are maybe only a few years old themselves. So and
they're torn up. Yeah, and I understand that. Why? Somebody you quoted said, "Why would I buy used when I could buy new?"
Right.
And the foreclosures are torn up. But the reality is that seems like a lot of these people are instantly underwater, right, on a loan that is essentially, if they default, going to be borne by the taxpayer.
Well, right. Initially, the FHA, Ginnie Mae, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. But then if their reserve levels drop to such a level, then the taxpayers would have to bail them out. And I'm sure you know about people warning that the FHA could need a bailout sometime down the road. And so you see that their reserve funds are depleting. The FHA's reserve funds, for example.
Yeah, it's really incredible reporting. I mean, because the government is, you hear members of the government blame the banks for all the problems that we've got, right? And the banks were complicit in some respects, but here you clearly have the FHA, state and county authorities, and other parties pushing homes on people with zero down.
Right, right. And then the analysts, the experts that I spoke to, their biggest concerns are, we know that the leading causes of foreclosure are having no stake in the game, right? Where there's no real reason for you not to walk away, and then also being underwater on your loan. Why continue paying on a mortgage when you're not going to be able to get that value back by reselling your home. And so some people do decide to walk away. And they say that these programs are just replicating those same conditions that led to a huge wave of foreclosures. And then another important point that I don't hear brought up all the time is that by not having a down payment, you're not demonstrating your ability to save. And as a homeowner, you do have to save money for painting, for any sort of
everything else, the emergencies that come up. Right.
So in this neighborhood in Cape Coral, even some of the homes that are lived in, you can tell that they've been stretched thin. The paint's chipping. There's no landscaping on a lot of these homes because they don't have
They fall into disrepair immediately.
Right, exactly.
You know what Warren Buffett said? The only thing we learn from history is that we don't learn from history. Great story. Sarah Ryley of The Daily. Fascinating, exclusive. The only thing, my only complaint about it was that it made me mad on the weekend. I was reading it and getting angry. Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.